Good morning. It's February 7th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, tonight Joe Biden will give the annual State of the Union. And this has become more of a pomp and circumstance event over the years, and as presidents try to lay out a rosy summation of what they've done and an even rosier forecast of what they're going to do in their administration. And tonight, Democrats will jump to their feet and clap and cheer every soundbite uttered by the president, and Republicans will sit on their hands. I do not expect Kevin McCarthy to engage in the same childish behavior that Nancy Pelosi demonstrated when she stood up at the conclusion of a Trump State of the Union and dramatically ripped his speech in half. That single act was beneath the dignity of the office. And yet liberals cheered her on as if McCarthy would engage in the same childish act. They would scream and yell about how terrible it was. And to be honest, if this was a Republican president, Democrats would sit on their hands and Republicans would jump up and cheer. Now, sometime after the State of the Union, it's expected that Joe Biden will announce that he's running for a second term. I want you to think about that for a minute. He will be 82 when this term is completed, and that means he expects to be president until age 86. Take a look around you at the average 80-year-old and tell me you think that's someone you want sitting in the Oval Office making crucial decisions that affect the entire world. But things are not much better on the Republican side. Donald Trump has already announced that he's running again, and he's rapidly approaching being an octogenarian. He's currently 76, and he would be 80 if he were to win. That would put him at 84 at the end of his four-year term. Again, do you want an 80-something sitting in the Oval Office making decisions that affect the entire world? I think the American public is finally letting that sink in, and the polling is showing that they have little appetite for another Biden-Trump race. According to a CNN poll, a majority of both parties say they would rather see someone new nominated in 2024. About 6 in 10 Republicans and Republican-leaning independents say they want their party to nominate someone other than former President Donald Trump, while 62% say get him out of there. A similar 59% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents say they'd like to see someone other than Joe Biden at the top of their ticket in the next election. But the same poll shows that those aligned with both Republican and Democrats would vote for Trump or Biden if they were the ultimate nominee. That's how sad our current political situation has become. Democrats are facing a more difficult problem in finding an alternative to Biden. Their bench is weaker than it has been for many years. Vice President Kamala Harris does not get Democrats fired up. In a recent Washington Post article, over a dozen Democratic leaders in key states shared anonymously, of course, their concerns. Harris's tenure has been underwhelming, they said, marked by struggles as a communicator and at times near invisibility, leaving many rank-and-file Democrats unpersuaded she has the force, charisma, and skill to mount a winning presidential campaign. Even Elizabeth Warren, a former candidate herself and a liberal, hedged her bets on Harris in an interview with a Boston radio station. And Hillary Clinton also hedged her bets, but of course that might be that Hillary would like to be the one running herself. But if Biden runs again, as we all expect, it would be difficult for him to jettison Harris as his running mate, and that would set her up as the front runner in 2028. Then we have the perennial candidate, Bernie Sanders. Bernie's already 81, he'd be 83 in 24. But he has a new book out, and he's making the rounds on a book tour that has all the earmarkings of testing the waters of another run. I don't think he would take on Biden, but if something were to happen to Biden, remember, he's over 80, he would be prepared to jump in. So I asked the same question. Do you want another 80-year-old sitting in the Oval Office? Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is making noise that he may run if Biden steps aside. Maybe Stacey Abrams will decide to run again because absent being in a political campaign, she becomes irrelevant and nobody will care what she's doing or even saying. Moving to the Republican side, who would challenge Donald Trump? The bench is a little stronger and the candidates are decidedly younger. Nikki Haley has already made it clear that she intends to run. She is the former governor of South Carolina and the UN ambassador under Trump. Her indication has already drawn the wrath of Trump in his usual personal attacks. I suspect that Haley's really running for a spot on the ticket as the vice president, even though I think she'd make a good president. The top name that always pops up is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's fresh off a landslide victory in his re-election effort in Florida. He led a complete sweep of statewide offices for Republicans in the Sunshine State. He polls the best against Trump, and if he were to be the nominee, I believe all the die-hard Trumpers would fall in line behind him. There are some further down the line, but let's name some of them. Mike Pence has made some noise, but I don't think the former vice president, excites the party base to gain any traction. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan has dropped some hints about him running, but again, he wouldn't get much support within the base, and that would doom his campaign. Governor Kristi Noem from South Dakota has a national profile, and some have touted her as a potential candidate, but I think she's another that would be a good running mate for someone like DeSantis. My personal favorite is Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire. If he had challenged Maggie Hassan in the Senate race, he would have won easily. Instead, he coasted to victory and was reelected as governor of New Hampshire again. Sununu is someone that would appeal to independents and suburban women, two groups crucial to winning the presidency. But I believe he's probably going to wait until 2028 and run up the seat as an open race. And that brings us back to where we are with the possibility of two octogenarians running for the most important office in the world, and that does not give me much hope for the next 4 years. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoy the podcast, click the subscribe button on either YouTube or Spotify. Thank you.